The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, this is Steve Davis. At the moment we've got 10 attendees. I'm just going to leave it open for another couple of minutes just so people can log on. If you'd like to ask questions, if we can save them till the end, that would be much better, so I can just get through all that we need to talk about, and then say if you've got any questions, we'll try and unmute everything and allow you to ask. So hopefully everybody can hear me. I'll just unmute everyone. Is everybody able to hear me okay?
I can hear you, Steve, yeah.
Yeah, I can hear.
Excellent. Well, I'm just going to share my desktop as well, so just people can confirm that they can see.
Yeah, I can see that.
Hopefully you should be able to see the holding screen saying webinar. Okay, I'll just give it one more minute and then we'll get started. What I'm going to try and do is unmute everybody from my end, and then if you can go on mute yourselves, that would be a lot better rather than me trying to make the controls work. I can hear a bit of typing going on. If anybody wants to mute themselves rather than me control it, that'd be handy. I think Deanna's muted. Okay. Okay, if we get started then. So I think firstly, just apologies that with so much running up to conference and so much of the work being done on Project Reach throughout the year, there have been a number of initiatives that have all sort of come together all at the same time, one of which was getting the new platform and your membership up and running. Obviously conference as well. And for those, obviously, most of you know that we're moving premises from Rains Park to Kingston. So all those initiatives, amongst other things, have been going on all at the same time. And we wanted to do the launch of sort of the independent UKOUG at conference and then take it on further. We did hold a number of workshops, etc., where volunteers were asked to attend, and we got a good mix of partners, independent contractors and end users as well to take part in that, and all that fed back, including surveys, into the options that were then put forward to the board of how we could change for the better going forward for 2019 and beyond. I hope everyone can see the screen. So why change? I don't think it's any secret that we've had a declining membership over the last few years, and it's about securing the future of the UKOUG. A lot of what we were doing was starting to be regarded as being old and stale, a bit too formal in the whole SIGs process, and attendances are dwindling across the board realistically, apart from a couple of areas at individual SIGs. And so where maybe we had 40 or 50 people coming to a SIG, that started to decline to sort of 20 to 30s to at times, I know for things like the financial SIG, for instance, on the app side, you get 10 or 12 people. And whereas you might be looking to run 5 of those a year, we were struggling to find content to run 3. What we also looked at is then the content committees and what were called SIG committees to have a freer rein. So to look at what they're doing for their days, and we'll talk about the events that we're putting on next year, and to what they want their content to be, how they want it to be consumed by the members. And that wasn't just for event days. That is talking about being agile, that if there's a hot topic that comes out, that we are able to get somebody to do a webinar on it or to have a meetup and have 1 or 2 speakers. So it's short, sharp, informative, and people are getting what they need. There's also been changes in the market. Obviously, the market is driving cloud, not just Oracle, but the market in general is driving people towards cloud and cloud solutions. And the job roles have changed, particularly in some areas. I've talked to some tech people, and whereas they might have been 90%, 100% Oracle working with databases or platforms, it's now sort of moving towards 50 or 60%, and they're having to work with other platforms, other products, get involved in other things. And so attending a specific SIG, they might have only had 1 or 2 things that they wanted to see on it, and so didn't feel, therefore, that it was worth a day out of the office in order to attend. Whereas if they have a co-located event and there are other subject matters going on, they're far more likely to want to spend the day out learning about a number of items in a number of tracks or streams. Building new communities. So one of the areas that we've been very good at over the years has been all the on-prem stuff. And we've still got a large group of our membership are on-prem, but we've identified that there's a whole raft of people, obviously, that are going to be living in the cloud, and we haven't really tailored anything particularly for them. Most of the cloud content in the past has been how I got from on-prem to cloud and those customer stories, and they're still incredibly important for those people who are on-prem. But those that are actually living in the cloud may not have even been Oracle before, and they've gone straight into Oracle Cloud. It's about having content and something for those guys as well. But still with a mind's eye that we maintain and grow the successful communities that we've got, and always have something that we're able to deliver to those. One of the big things that came out of the welcome from Martin Widlake at a conference was the split in conference as of next year. So there will be a tech conference in 2019 in December in Brighton. And what we're looking to do on the business app side is to build up what works, what doesn't, what communities are alive and thriving, and those that aren't, those that are dwindling, and try and work out what we can deliver to those people to then having a reimagined conference in 2020. And it's probably looking like June at the moment, but nothing's been firmly decided on a date as far as that's concerned. There's differing content needs, different move, and it gives us more choice of venues. One of the reasons we were in Liverpool was that we would have had to sign Birmingham up again to get 2018. We'd have had to sign in 2015. So there are not that many venues across the UK that can house us as far as all our sessions. I think, you could go to the Excel for an exhibition hall, but actually having all the rooms where we have all the agendas and all the streams is more and more difficult. So the idea behind splitting the conferences isn't just because of the different needs, but it's also a case of it gives us a lot more scope to move around the country and ensure that people are focused on their specific conference and it giving them what it needs to give them. So I spoke about our membership, and basically it sort of splits into three parts. The traditionalists, so those who, as I say, make up the majority of our membership as far as customers are concerned. Those that are on-prem, not really considering a move to cloud. They still want to see what's going on in the market and how people are making that jump from on-prem to cloud. But it's also about giving those people content so they're able to still get the most A, out of their membership, and B, out of their relationship with Oracle. So if we're talking about EBS, JDE, PeopleSoft, Hyperion, etc. The transitioning, so those people that are looking at their options, what they're going to do maybe with a 2, 3, 5 year roadmap as to where they're going, might not even be staying Oracle, but it's making sure that those people are informed and given the insight as to what other customers have done, and all, as we know, the pitfalls, what can go wrong, what went well, etc., etc. All the stuff that you could go to Oracle Open World or MBX as it was before, or MCX, and get the Oracle side of it and the customer story. But we also know that that's tailored very much to Oracle trying to sell a product to people, as opposed to real life stories from like-minded people and individuals like yourselves, users, SIs, independent contractors, recruiters, etc., that make up our membership, as to what that means, how people are doing things, and how everybody can learn from each other as that connected community. And then we've got the living in the cloud. And as I said, that's either people who are partly in the cloud, so they might have PBCS, let's say, in the cloud, and that's working with a legacy system, whether it's Oracle or not, and those that are fully in the cloud, that have made the leap and are running their business purely on Oracle Cloud solutions. So we build on our current strong membership, but we need to attract those members that have gone straight to Oracle into the cloud session. And so our operating model is that we need products and services and membership models to recognize the changes in technology and how people are moving, and also catering for those that aren't moving and not looking to move, to ensure that they're getting value from what we provide. So for apps, apps is going to be renamed Business Apps as far as the UKOUG is concerned. One of the reasons for that is it's not just about applications, it's about business as well. You know, when we're talking about transformational projects, change management, it's about the business and strategy as much as it is about the applications itself. And catering for all members, as I say. So we've got our on-prem communities where the attendance has been dwindling, and that's to be expected as people move off on-prem and onto other solutions. Product-specific communities weren't really working. So as I mentioned before, the financial SIG, we used to have 3 financials and 2 public sector financials, and then we started to blend them together. And then we had 3 a year, and even then we were struggling for content. And then the problem you've got with that is that you're advertising an event and then cancelling them. And I think last year and the year before, there were a number of events that were cancelled due to lack of numbers particularly. However, on the upside, industry-specific communities are still very strong. So higher education, public sector, HCM are still thriving. And actually it's sort of a good model to base us being able to build other industry-specific communities, particularly as we go into the living in the cloud community. So banking, retail, manufacturing, marketing communities for Eloqua or CX cloud. So there's those sort of areas that we're still going to provide content for, still going to provide event days for. It's just not going to be called a SIG, basically. But that doesn't mean that it runs exactly the same as a SIG. And this is what I said, that the committees that are working on those areas will have free rein to try and get them to run as they want to run them. So, for instance, if a higher education SIG wants to be held in a university, and utilising all the rooms and the capabilities that they have, and they will do. And the last one is that we've put on a lot of events or SIG days in Oracle offices, and that does limit us to some extent as far as exhibitors are concerned, that we're not able to get exhibitors there, sponsoring slots for people to speak. And that really doesn't feed into our independence. We want people to be able to come and talk freely about their solutions and the options that they've chosen and that they're going for, and how that relates to the products. Of course, we'd have Oracle would be able to speak at these events and put their side of how their product stands up against other products. But it's important to us that people are able to speak freely about what it is that they're doing, how they're doing it, and why they might not have chosen a certain part of their solution to be Oracle. So what worked for them and what didn't. And that really does feed into that independent part of the UKOUG. So just continue just for a moment on business apps. We're catering for the traditionalists and the transitioners, particularly on co-located on-prem day. I'm going to run one in June and then see how successful that is. Part and parcel of this whole process is to look at what works and what doesn't, and being able to recognize those things that work and reproduce them in other areas, and recognize those things that don't and change them. Whereas that's been a wholly long process in the past. The board are behind that. The office team support that as they do everything and put all their energy and drive into it. They're incredibly, excited about getting new events going on in new venues and changing up the way we do it and bringing all the excitement that they brought to the conferences this year to drive numbers forward. And when people are there, to really engage with them and make sure they have the best time that they can and get value for the money. So one of the ideas is to hold a co-located on-prem day. So it'll be EBS, PeopleSoft, JDE, Hyperion, reporting and analytics. So again, the third-party reporting where people provide a lot of options, apps, tech, and security. And we can take things like apps, tech, and security, and for instance, analytics, and also say they work in the tech world as well, but in different ways. And they are a different audience who will look at things in a different way as well. So for security, we're talking about users and roles and responsibilities in applications, whereas in tech, it would be to do with database security, permissions, networks, etc., etc. Apps tech has always been an interesting area that bridges the divide as well. And so there will actually be part of the on-prem days, but they'll also have their own days as well to talk about apps tech, both from an application side and a technology side. And it's really free for those committees to determine what it is that their communities want to see, and having the ability to put on an event or put on a meetup or hold a webinar to ensure that people get what they want. So for the app side, we've got SaaS and PaaS days. We've got cloud days, purely cloud content, driven by that committee. Apps tech days, as I said, security day. And again, we will work with the higher education committee for higher ed days and public sector HCM days to continue building upon those thriving communities. Reporting days. So we're going to have although it's going to be part of the on-prem, we're also looking at a day of reporting. So all those people that do provide third-party solutions, etc., we will hold a day where you can be an unadulterated sales pitch if required, that people are able to come, learn about your solutions, and compare them against what other customers are using, and how they're using them and what works for them, whether that's ClickView, BI Splash, More for Apps, Excel for Apps, and the rest of those is a case of allowing them as members of UKOUG to talk to the customer base, to get their customers talking to each other, so people can see that the options that are there, as well as the Oracle option, of course, whether that's dashboard reporting or Hyperion or OBIA, OBIE, CE and all the rest of the items that are available, EPM, etc. Of course, we've still got Ireland. Ireland is 2 days again this year, and then we'll have a day in Scotland. So those will be running. There will be a business app stream within those. To be fair, in the past, particularly Ireland has been more tech driven, but that doesn't necessarily mean that needs to be the way forward. And so they are little mini conferences, all of their own. As I said about living in the cloud, we're looking at building new communities within those. So like-minded people talking to each other. So when we had the apps workshop, we had a couple of people from the construction industry, Hugh and Linda Barker, and so saying that there are a number of members and non-members who use Oracle all in the construction industry, and that they need to talk to each other and get together and work in the same way as higher education do and public sector HCM. So we'll be working towards that and delivering content for those people going forward, that then will take into the cloud days where they can then start to mix between the communities. Because I feel, especially with cloud, that what how you use it and the design of it is that actually we're all on the same code, we're all on the same level, pretty much, if you've gone through your upgrade process. And so there's a lot to be learned from public sector to private sector and back again. And it's not necessarily specific on a product anymore or an industry. It's about people sharing how they're doing it and how they're managing the process and living in the cloud, quite honestly. From the tech side, again, we showed this on the Reach video at conference. It comes back to having these tech summits. So we've been running the Northern Tech Day for quite a while now, and it's been very successful. And as I say, jobs have changed and the market's changed in a lot of what is being done in the tech world, in the fact that people aren't just pigeonholed into database or rack or whatever it might be, infrastructure, and are interested and are working with other parts, whether that's other systems or other parts of the journey with Oracle. And so having a co-located summits across the UK means that these people can have multiple streams, are able to dip in and out of streams, and get a full day's worth of value in their area. So we're going to take that on tour and continue to do that across the country, build up the interesting elements, the new elements that come on board, the next gen stuff, and then what that all feeds into is then into their Tech Fest at the end of the year 2019. And again, going back to the app side, that's what we'll be doing through 2019 to then ensure that when we do the apps conference, business apps conference in 2020, that it really fulfills all the needs and we have all the interest built up within the communities to make that a really special event. As I said, meetups. So we've got a calendar available for anybody that wants to start meetups. We're working with Oracle, who are going to provide us with their newsletter of things that are happening on a quarterly basis. And then if there are any hot topics on there, we'll be looking to the community to be able to say, yeah, let's have a meetup on that. And whether that's about AI, chatbots, whether that's about Apex or development, is the fact that whether you could have a breakfast, lunch, early evening meet up very quickly, 1 or 2 speakers, and actually get people engaged with the speakers rather than that sort of formal SIG setting that we go through 45-minute sessions, a bit of a chat, a bit of a network, a couple more sessions, and then people disappear. This is an ability to make it far more informal, just discussions and almost round table type events that people can dip in and out of throughout the year as and when. So really, one of the big things with the volunteers is not just part of the content committees to build the events up, but it's also to think about, what would make a good meetup? Who can we invite? Your customers, if you're an SI, you as an individual end user, what are the hot topics that you want to know about? And we can spring a meetup out. Again, the same with webinars. Only difference, obviously, is that you don't need to be out of the office for this. So just running short webinars on certain things that actually your community want to know about, and we can get the experts in, whether that you want to hear from Oracle, whether you want to hear from partners that have done it, whether you want to hear from customers that have done certain things. Then we're able to reach out to the membership, build the community to then say, let's have a webinar on something. And that's another one of the reasons why we've worked with what's called Your Membership as a new website, is to connect those communities. So for those people that have been on and opened their account, they can see their profile. So if they want to know purely about EBS and anything that's happening with there, we can send you that content into your newsfeed. You can talk to each other. You can start to build communities. So we've already got some groups on there at the moment. They're loosely applications, technology groups, and there's a higher education, there's a public sector HCM one because they already had a forum in the previous light. But it means that people can talk to each other, can obviously talk to the office a lot easier about what people would like to see, and actually get some discussion and take on from what we did at conference, which was pass the knowledge. You know, I've passed on this knowledge, I want people to know about it, but I also, this is something I want to know, and can somebody help me? And just connecting those communities together. Obviously, it's available on your mobile as well. And if you set your preferences, you can be informed of things as and when they happen, or on a daily basis as to what's going on your account. And as I say, and then using that social link to provide you with the connectivity to say what's going on, who can help me, and whether that needs to be asked to the office or an SI or other customers. You're quite able to, and I think a lot of you have, is to connect with people and use it in a sort of, in almost a Facebook style, and as much of people for social media as you can do. So that's a quick overview on it. Just to close, none of these decisions have been taken lightly. The idea of change isn't for change's sake. It realistically is to refresh, renew, and get people more engaged. People have become disengaged. I think some of our volunteer base have become disengaged because at times they felt that their ideas weren't being heard. And what we're opening that up now to those committees and those people who want to volunteer for those committees is that bring your ideas, bring the new things that you wanted to do maybe before, and some ones you just thought of. Bring those to the table and talk to the office team and the guys here as to how we can make that happen for you and your community. I'm going to attempt to unmute everybody now. Does anybody want to ask any questions?
Yeah, so if the SIGs are no longer in existence, I presume the SIG committees are disbanded. And therefore, how are people getting involved to help steer and do paper selection, etc., for the one-day summits?
Is that Phil?
Yeah.
Yeah, hi Phil. Yeah, good question. So basically the SIG committees will become content committees, for want of a better word. So when we saw the technology sort of co-located event, there'll still be maybe 6-7 streams in that event. That doesn't mean there has to be an Apex one every time, or there has to be a rack one every time. If you haven't got the content for it, then you haven't got the content for it. So what will happen is somebody will own that event, and then they will look to those content committees as to building a stream. So it's like a conference in some respects, but it's just a one-day one. So it's having that brief of, if you're in the Apex committee, content committee, for instance, have you got something for the agenda? Can you build something for this event in time? Or have you got a couple of things you'd like to put on? It's quite free and easy. What we're trying to get away from is I've got 4 or 5 SIGs I have to produce this year, and I've got to go out and try and get content for all of them. Otherwise, I've got to cancel it. If it happens that one of, let's say, Southern Tech Summit doesn't have spatial or graph, or if we're talking about on app side, it might not have security this time around, that's okay. Okay, if there's nothing much going on that you want to put forward, then because there'll be other parts, maybe database, maybe developer that do have content that they would wish to put in there. So it's just being a bit more agile, a bit freer to, if we've got some agenda stuff that we think is good quality and good content, let's put it on there. If we're really struggling to find it, don't panic. Does that help, Phil?
Kind of. I appreciate the fact that you're not working to a fixed target for a SIG, but conversely, the benefit is it helped focus minds on have we got enough to put together here.
I agree, and that would still be the case, because I'd still like to see a stream of every one of those things that would normally be on there, that would normally be running a SIG.
Okay.
But it's working towards a Midlands Tech Summit, a Southern Tech Summit, a Northern Tech Summit. So you've still got to focus for that event on that date, and we need some content for it.
Steve, can I make just a suggestion? And it is only a suggestion. I don't know if this has been considered yet. Is almost like having a mapping table of the old SIGs to the new way forward that you've expressed very eloquently, I might say. And to avoid there being a situation of limbo, map those SIG committees across to the new committees that we're going to have, and in that way, we would avoid, some of the concerns that have just been raised, and also it might help with some impetus in terms of, moving those new communities forward.
Absolutely, Tom. Yeah. So Anna's sorting out now all the volunteer groups and the committees that are there, how that works in the new world, and also reaching out to people to be new, either come back who have been volunteers before, who might have got disenfranchised, and also looking for new people. And so absolutely. So this is what we're looking for, and we can map these people over to there and ask them, do you still want to be a volunteer? Do you want to be part of this? It's all part of the volunteers program that Kerry and Martin Woodlake and I and Kerry and Martin be continuing with, is to work with those volunteers, make sure that people are onboarded a lot better, because I think we've lost that. Understand what is required of the volunteers, roles and responsibilities. Not having a go at volunteers, it's a case of, I think there's roles and responsibilities on the UKOUG as well as there is on the volunteers. We've had people come in and do lots, and we've had people come in and do very little. Now, if that's because there's been a change in their work circumstances, etc., just let us know. Just let people know, for 3 months, I'm really not going to be able to deliver much. And what it will do is it will stop us bombarding you with stuff of, can you help with this agenda, and sort of the silence that comes backwards and forwards. So it's all part and part of that process, because we can't get any of this done without all the hard work that you guys do. I mean, that's a given. So we'll definitely do that. But thank you for bringing it up, Tom, because that's quite right. Yeah.
Hi, it's Duncan here.
I think that way
Hi, Duncan.
we can maybe invigorate some of the new communities that you were talking about as part of that process as well. So thank you very much for confirming that, Steve.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Sorry, Duncan.
No, that's right. Generally very positive in terms of, I think, what's being suggested. Obviously, we need to reincarnate the use group. You talked about opening up analytics to the likes of Click, Splash ID, and I completely understand in terms of the fact that you need their money, you need their sponsorship. But can I ask, are you opening the apps one up to Salesforce, Workday, SAP, and the database one to DB2, Teradata, and AWS?
Well, the first thing on business apps would be no.
So my question then is, why for analytics? I know some very influential ex-OUG people in some of those competitors, But why open up there but not the other? I don't see any difference.
Well, only because they're products that work with the Oracle product as option.
Yeah, but so does DB2 work under the apps. I just don't see the logical difference, other than the fact they're willing to bring money to the table, which I have to completely say that Oracle isn't willing to. But I just I do sit in the analytics space, but I see them as competitors in the same way SAP, Workday, and Salesforce are competitors to apps. I just don't see the logic. I never have.
Yeah, I think from my point of view, I would see it as they're more add-ons and bolt-ons and augmenting. I mean, generally people are.
See, I would disagree. You don't put stuff in the database unless you're going to exploit it. So to me, the bolt-on is the database, not the analytics on top of it. To me, managing HR is all about the output, not the input. So I would disagree fundamentally there.
And so people, if you're taking on-prem, would be using BI or OBIA, and then they've also struggled with it, and so they'll take it out and use, I don't know, Morph Wraps to get it into Excel so they can play with it.
Or they've struggled with the Oracle database and therefore they've put DB2 in. But you're not talking about putting DB2 into the database agenda because they've struggled with Oracle database. Or they've struggled with CRM and therefore they've bought Salesforce. I just don't I've never followed the OUG's logic on this one, other than the fact that they bring money to the table.
Well, I mean, there are Oracle products in direct competition. I think you get a lot of the Oracle reporting comes with Oracle. I don't know enough about database and the technology side to say one way or the other. We have talked about the fact that you can have an Oracle solution that's hosted on AWS, and whether that should be part and parcel of one of the conversations that we're allowed to have as an independent Oracle user group.
Hi, Steve. It's Mark Thomas from PeopleSoft's gang. I did want to ask a slightly different question for you, which is almost what happens next. You talked a lot about, we doing this to actually drive membership, and I'm sort of trying to see how are you going to now make that happen? I'm quite interested in, for example, what your role is going to be from now onwards. Are you continuing this drive and making sure it all happens? So, as an example, the new OUG website has been launched, but it almost looks like a bit of an empty warehouse, if you forgive me. So, from a PeopleSoft perspective, it's difficult to find the word PeopleSoft, and when I do, there's next to no info in there apart from log in to find more, which doesn't necessarily encourage new people to actually sort of go, this is the place to go for the PeopleSoft community. So, it almost looks like a very starting point, and I'm keen to see whether you've now got a remit to actually go, right, I'm going to make it happen. So I could compare PeopleSoft with the Quest website, which is the US kind of community, and that's a huge kind of community site. It draws people in naturally because of all the content, and it's a big call to action is you're going to be bonkers not to actually register with it, and I can't see the same as happened so far on this. So it almost looks like this is your starting point, and I'm really keen to actually go, right, so how are you now going to really use this as your springboard to do the things you said on slide 1, which is drive the number of members you've got, increase the number of attendees at conferences and so on. So it's a great message, but I'm now sort of going, I was almost hoping to see, and here's our roadmap for all of the things you're now going to be doing. So I get the little, let's do different things, but I can't see the kind of substance behind it. I think there's one of the consistent messages I've heard over the years has been quality of your database, i.e. OUG's database, has been pretty poor at being able to market to the right people. And are we doing more on that side now, etc.? Because we've all heard lots of noises in the past it's going to happen, but I'm never sure whether it ever did. So I'm keen on how you're going to now drive this, and have you got a big role in making this now happen, or is there a danger that it's going to fizzle out and we're going to hear nothing more about it?
Right, so a few questions in there. So, one of the things, I personally won't be having a role in it, apart from being non-exec director and on the board. So I still will be helping drive it. Karen and the team will be driving it forward. If you take your membership platform, it's going to be phased. There is a number of things in there. So originally we went live for conference, and we moved all the memberships over. then the library starts to come over, then the content, the event registration, etc., etc. What we can do with it is hugely much more than anything we've had. We had all separate systems that didn't talk to each other. We are looking to drive it more forward with people. We want people to build communities. We want ambassadors for those communities. So yes, there should be a PeopleSoft community on there. So we need to start one up, and people can start one. And I quite agree with you, Mark, is the place to go to. You'd be mad not to use it, because it is the sort of one-stop area to get everything that you need from us. So that's the commitment to it. It will be phased and we'll be more putting out. But I'll take your point on board, is that we should provide something that sort of says what is coming, and also let's utilize the system itself to say what you'd like to see in there if you don't feel it's there. And actually, if you look at our roadmap when we provide it, it doesn't look like it's coming. Now, is that a shortcoming of the product, or is that a shortcoming of us that we haven't thought of it and it would be a good idea to do it? And it might be a great idea for one community and not another. So, it doesn't mean it shouldn't be done. But we're open to suggestions. This is the whole point of it. It is UKOUG is for the members. It's for you. It's your organisation as such. And the guys here are trying to make that work in whatever way that you want to consume information, content, and connect with each other. We'll try and provide that in whatever way works for you.
Yeah, I just think you've done a huge amount of work around Project Reach, and you've got us to this stage. What I don't want is that OG now roll you off as a project manager and we're almost back with the BAU team and everything else they've got to do, and not then getting the drive to actually make what you've just sort of committed to actually happen. Because I still think you need, a pretty strong project manager to actually drive this and make all of this happen and bring it together. And that's a bit I'm missing. I think if you had been engaged as a project manager for another year, you'd be sitting here actually sort of, with a more defined plan of what you actually want to achieve during the year. Whereas I think it's quite loose at the moment, and that may well be because you're doing a different role in the future.
No, I appreciate that, Mark. Yeah, I mean, I understand that. It's always one of those things that you get it to a point and then you sort of like hand the child over and hope that nobody drops it. But but I am going to be around working with Karen to make sure that there is the drive from the top, because I know there is, and I know what you're saying. The team turned into a BAU thing, and that's great because we're going to deliver all the BAU things. But actually, does the changes, the review on what worked, what didn't work, working with the committees, etc., is to then. Yeah. Well, that takes us now 2019 into 20. How is that shaping up? And one of the big things for us has been more and more engagement with you guys. I know it doesn't seem like it, the fact I've had to, do this webinar because you weren't informed fully of what had been going on. But things have been moving so quickly in a lot of areas. We're going to stabilize in the new premises, stabilize with the basic of this new platform, and then start to build upon that. And
for me, I think I'd love to see almost like a, whether it's a quarterly, half-yearly kind of target that you're aiming for, and then the board setting up where well, let's have some checkpoints with the volunteers and actually go, this is what we want to do in quarter one. This is what we want you involved in quarter one. Can you sign up, commit to that type of time that we need for this, and we'll deliver this by half year or whatever it will be. So we've got something tangible that we know. Right, we know exactly what you are requiring from us, and we're actually getting some commitments as to when things are happening. Because I think the challenge for me as a volunteer has been, what should I be communicating out within my community to get them excited about this?
Yeah.
And at the moment, I find it very, very loose and very difficult to actually get people energized and excited about what is coming and what they can expect and when they can expect it. So, for me, just feeding back to you, I think it's, go back to your guys and actually go, treat it like a project and, treat it with some real deliverables in there and get us involved. But actually, let's make things happen, because I think everyone could be really excited by what you're actually putting out there. I'm just thinking, I'm just hope it's not so loose that, it now stops.
It loses traction once you've got it. You've got to keep engaged and press on. Yeah, absolutely, Mark. No, I agree with you. And thanks. Yeah, I've written all that down. I'll feed that back.
I think it's a very good point.
Thanks, mate.
I think it's a very good point, and also, for me, it's like there's an awful lot of changes like being proposed here. I agree with most of them, but I don't think the big bang approach is going to work. You need to phase it out and work to tangible, deliverables, or like tangible results, for the changes to be successful.
Yeah, I agree, Andrew. I think some of them are short term and some of them are long term. It's very easy to write something down about saying building communities in retail or banking. That's a commitment for 12, 18 months to build something that's there, that's tangible, that's working like it does with the HE community, etc. And so that's more of a longer term one, but we've got to provide content, we've got to provide a membership model for those people. And then there's the shorter term ones of we need to get content to people that are on-prem. We can't lose sight of them because, for one, they feel like Oracle have lost sight of them. And it's definitely not the case with the UKOUG. So, and if we look at a lot of the content, Tom will know, he's been on the same sort of committees as I have. A lot of the content that comes in that we get is still predominantly in regard to the traditionalist on-premise with the sort of how do I work with cloud in either a hybrid version or how do I transition to it? What are the pains when I get there? It's all those sort of things that we've got to keep providing to people. And so it will be a constant state of, we've run that event. We need to have that debrief quicker. We need to get involved people quicker with the volunteers. As Mark says, having checkpoints of people, right, what worked, what didn't. And we not only within that event, but then other volunteers are part of that process. So they understand, this worked really well. It could work for you as well. Because we've had disconnects, not necessarily, across between apps and tech, definitely, but we've also had it even between SIG committees and then conference committees. That we've had SIG committees and then the conference committee's got nobody who's recognised from the SIG committee in that area, and they're trying to put on a stream of, I don't know, anything, apps, tech, EBS, and yet actually the events throughout the year and what's worked and what isn't should feed into what goes into conference and what's going to attract our audience. And so those volunteers aren't talking to each other. They're in sort of distinct different groups. And we need to make sure that actually all volunteers are aware of what's going on, what's been happening, what's been working. And it's having those checkpoints back with them that's really important. And not just to me, but obviously to Martin, the president, and Kerry, who have taken this on board, as they are going to be, the two people really working with the volunteers to make sure it always it's working for you.
Hi, Steve. Stuart Bensley here. Hello there.
Hi, Stuart.
I don't know how many people are on the call there. Hi there. But yeah, it looks like you've done a grand job there on pulling together some really good changes, some transformations, which could be really, really good for 2019 and onwards. But so I think I am also hearing Dave loud and clear, that I have those concerns as well about the follow-on in terms of the detail, where are the scorecards, if you like, which show how things have measured up, communications, etc., clarity around what the volunteers need to think about, in terms of their actions, etc. And I think that's really important now to expedite that part of it, because I'm not seeing it either.
Yep.
And I think that's really, really important. Otherwise, there isn't the clarity there that has to be there to allow that communications to be effective. So, example off the top of my head, what we're doing with stream leads, how does content committees relate to streams? No idea whatsoever. Things like licensing, which are a really important part of Oracle, is a content item? Is it a stream item, or is it just going to miraculously appear now and again on an ad hoc basis? I think there's really a need to get some real detail, and even a matrix of topics with people and committees at the content level, at the stream level, and all of the other things that might not justify a committee, but do need to be included in each stream. for consideration, and so on. So I think in a nutshell, there needs to be a lot more detail.
Yeah, I agree with you. And that's what Kerry's working on, volunteers update and the packs and everything else. But I do agree with the matrix and obviously how people are interacting. You mentioned something like license management. You know, in the past, we've sort of done one event every 18 months. I presume we've got a committee together to do that. I think if somebody's, let's say, head of license management as far as the volunteers are concerned, I'd be looking to that person to say, well, what do you think? Do you think you should be on a stream, you know, maybe in an apps one, maybe in a tech one once a year? Or do you want your own event? Do you think, you know, we can get the attendance to run an event yourself? It's working with the volunteers who know the communities, what's best for them to consume the content that we want to provide. And so, yes, there needs to be a lot more clarity, a lot more communication, but in a more open environment that people can work within, not such strict frameworks that it has to be provided like this and only this. You know, there is that option to do a number of different things, even if you wanted to test your waters and see what works and what works for you. But yeah, I do believe, yeah, we need to get the matrix together and how all the volunteers work together.
Yeah, and I think the scorecards also would be really, really useful, because obviously anybody out there that's volunteering who's got a concern with their own community, you know, because of whatever reason, it can be fed back in a quantified way and then contrasted with the other groups, and that will help prioritisation. And I'm not seeing that, so I think that will address some of the problems we've heard.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea. I've got that down. Yeah, excellent. Thanks, Stuart.
No worries.
I'm conscious we've got about 9 minutes left. I just wondered if anybody had any more questions, or obviously if you can't think of anything now, the usual rules apply, that suddenly when the call finishes, etc., and you're having your sandwich and suddenly something pops in your head, just feel free to email me, steve.david.
Steve, sorry, I think it's really important for everyone to know what next steps are. You know, what do we do now? What do we do in January? Do we regroup in the old committees? What's the plan?
Yeah, so Kerry and Martin will be sending something out shortly on that we're going to get everything sorted very early January, so everybody knows where they are, as the option to, you know, stay a volunteer, become a volunteer, do more, etc., and get that out to you. So that's the next process. I'm sorry it's taken a while. A lot of these things, with all the different options and the different choices we had to go through, and then obviously it's got to go through board meetings to get them ratified and agreed. So that's all been done now, and we can move forward and get those things out to you as soon as possible, because obviously we want to get started working on events and producing stuff.
Okay.
And that also works for things like Oracle Scene as well. So for Oracle Scenes going through a change, for those who are at conference, you see the sort of the split magazine, the flip side, the sort of business app side and the tech side. Be good to get some feedback on that, on how that's working, particularly on the app side, looking to source more customer stories. We have a journalist working with us to do that. On the tech side, we get loads of content come in, but that doesn't mean that it has to stay exactly the same way. But it's all part and parcel of what we deliver. It's not just the events, the webinars, the meetups, etc. There's also things like Oracle Scene that underpin that as well. So, you know, those changes are going through to try and, you know, modernize us a bit and start to bring more of what the communities want. And of course, you represent the communities, you guys. So it's vital that we keep that communication, vital we keep, as you say, Stuart, scorecards and how things are performing. So we can put that back into the machine, if you like, and say, right, okay, let's try this, let's do that.
Yeah, I mean, could you send something out, Steve, just so that we've got follow through? You know, maybe no more than 5 or 10 items, topics which people can feed back on from their own legacy communities. You know, content communications, inwards, outwards, etc., and that might help focus.
We can certainly get something out. As I say, you know, we've just agreed that the process and everything, how it's going. We just got to get that out to you and communicated. And then, as I say, look for feedback into areas and have a process in place that when events have finished, that we can more quickly get the detail that's gone behind that. Our system will help immeasurably on that, because as somebody rightly said, it's been awful in the past and we haven't been able to get the information we wanted. We'll now be able to get a lot more information. We'll be able to target people specifically on the things that they're interested in, rather than blanket emailing everybody about everything. So it's all really geared up to try and make each sort of membership content and value be provided to them in a way that they want to, as I say, consume it. But it's forever being reviewed and seen, because it keeps changing, the market keeps changing. So we've got to keep moving with the times and moving with what's working. Okay, is there any more questions? As I say, you can drop me an email if you think of anything later on. Otherwise, I'll leave it there. Really appreciate everybody coming on. We've recorded the session for anybody who's missed it as well, so might get some more questions out of that. And what we're trying to do is I'll give you some feedback on what we've talked about today and what we're doing moving forward in the new year as soon as we can, in the first week of January, and get that out to you so everybody's on the same page and following the same way of processing and how we're going to do this and make it happen. So I really appreciate it. Everybody's really keen here to get going next year and make it happen. So and we look forward to working with you guys more and more to make that a success. I'll speak to you soon. Okay, thanks very much.